In the stillness of a fog-laced morning, a reclusive farmer stumbles upon a shivering boy deep in the woods, alone, silent, and holding nothing but a silver necklace etched with mysterious initials. What seems like a tragic accident quickly unravels into something far more extraordinary. The boy is Leo Everhart, the missing heir of the country's most powerful billionaire, Marianne Everhart, a woman revered by the world but haunted by secrets that could destroy her empire. As the nation watches a media frenzy unfold, the farmer, Eli Moran, faces an impossible choice: return the child to unimaginable wealth or protect him from it. Leo insists he wasn't taken, he ran, and the more Eli digs, the darker the Everhart legacy becomes. Hidden adoptions, shattered lives, a mother's grief buried under years of lies. What began as a rescue turns into a revelation that could shake the elite to their core. This is a story of fate and found family, of a boy searching for truth, and a man who dares to stand against everything to protect him. In a world where money commands power, one question remains: who truly deserves to be called family? The woods between us, not every missing child wants to be found. The morning mist clung to the fields like a secret. It rolled over the dewy grass in long, lazy ribbons, softening the sharp edges of the world. Eli Moran stood on the creaking front porch of his old farmhouse, a chipped mug of black coffee warming his calloused hands. The sun hadn't yet cleared the tree line, and the air carried that earthy, expectant chill only found before first light. Out here in rural Pine Hollow, silence was more than absence. It was presence. It pressed in, wrapping the land like a blanket. No traffic, no voices, just the rustle of leaves, the occasional call of a far-off bird, and the rhythmic ticking of the old weather vane spinning gently atop the barn. Eli liked it this way, quiet, predictable. That's why the sound stood out. A sharp crack, wood, maybe a twig, snapped somewhere in the trees beyond his cornfield. It wasn't the kind of noise animals made. Too precise, too hesitant. Eli straightened, setting the coffee cup down on the railing. His eyes narrowed. He'd lived on this land for 37 years. He knew the difference between deer scuttling through underbrush and something or someone moving deliberately. He grabbed his coat off the hook by the door and slid into his boots, careful not to wake his sister Clara, still sleeping inside. Her rheumatoid arthritis had flared up again, and she'd had a rough night. No need to drag her into whatever nonsense this was. Probably just a lost dog or an over-curious raccoon. Still, he fetched the old .22 rifle from the corner of the mudroom, just in case. The trees loomed ahead as he crossed the field. As he reached the edge of the woods, the fog thickened, turning the forest into a watercolor of grays and greens. Eli moved quietly, years of hunting training his steps. A few more paces in, and there it was again, a faint rustle, then stillness. He paused near a moss-covered rock and waited, holding his breath. A moment passed, then another, and then a whisper of movement to his right. He turned quickly, weapon lowered, not wanting to scare whatever it was, but what he saw made his stomach clench. There, nestled against the base of a fallen tree, was a small figure, a boy. He couldn't have been more than 6 or 7, bundled in a light jacket that was far too thin for the cold. His knees were tucked into his chest, arms wrapped tightly around them. His face was smudged with dirt, his lips trembling. Eli stepped closer, slowly. "Hey there, son," he said softly. "You all right?" The boy didn't respond. His eyes flicked up wide and wary. Blue, startlingly blue. He clutched something in his hands, a chain, a pendant maybe, though Eli couldn't make it out from the distance. "I'm not gonna hurt you," Eli said, crouching now. "My name's Eli. I live just over that rise." The boy blinked but said nothing. His little shoulders shuddered. Eli exhaled and shrugged off his coat, offering it forward. "You're freezing. Let's get you warm." After a long pause, the boy reached out slowly, cautiously, like an animal uncertain if the hand meant help or harm. When his fingers touched the jacket, he flinched. Then he pulled it around himself, still silent. "I don't suppose you can tell me your name?" Eli asked gently. No response. "Well, that's all right. You don't have to say anything. Let's just get you inside." As Eli lifted the boy into his arms, he weighed almost nothing, the kind of light that came from not eating for days. Eli's gut twisted. He turned back toward the house, mind racing. A lost child out here made no sense. No neighbors for miles. No nearby roads a kid could just wander from. Something was wrong, very wrong. He looked down at the boy, who had now rested his head against Eli's shoulder. The boy clutched his necklace tight, as if it were the only thing tethering him to the world. And for a brief moment, Eli felt it, that ripple in the quiet, that gut-deep knowing this wasn't just some lost child. This was the beginning of something much bigger, something that would change everything. Clara's hands trembled slightly as she poured hot water into the chipped kettle. Despite the warmth of the kitchen and the rising sun casting golden light through the lace curtains, she couldn't shake the chill that had settled in her chest the moment she saw Eli walk through the door with a child in his arms. The boy sat quietly at the kitchen table, still wrapped in Eli's coat. He hadn't spoken, hadn't even looked around, just clung to the fabric like it was armor. Eli, seated across from him, gave Clara a look that said, "Not now, later." Clara respected that look. She knew her brother didn't jump to conclusions, but the fact that he'd brought a stranger, especially a child, into their home meant he sensed something deeply wrong. She set a plate of toast and scrambled eggs in front of the boy. He didn't touch it. "Do you know your name, sweetheart?" she asked, kneeling beside him. "Are you hurt anywhere?" Still nothing. He stared at the plate, eyes distant. Eli leaned in. He was out in the woods near the north fence line, alone. Clara frowned. "What's a child doing out there? There's no houses within miles." "I don't know. He was freezing, and I didn't see any sign of an adult nearby." "He's in shock," Clara said quietly. "We should call the sheriff." Eli's jaw tensed. "Not yet. Let's wait until he talks." She hesitated, then nodded. Eli always had good instincts. Later that afternoon, Clara changed the boy into fresh clothes. His body was littered with small bruises and scratches. Nothing life-threatening, but definitely signs he'd been out in the elements longer than a few hours. After cleaning him up, she noticed the necklace again, tucked beneath his shirt. Curious, she gently pulled it out. A silver pendant hung from the chain, tarnished but ornate. In the center was an intricate monogram, L.E. Clara blinked. "Do these letters mean something to you? Is your name Leo, maybe?" The boy didn't respond, but he tightened his grip on the pendant. "Leo," she repeated softly, "is that your name?" A faint nod. She smiled. "Well, hello, Leo. That's a strong name." Leo looked up at her for the first time, really looked. His eyes were filled with something older than his years. Fear, yes, but also knowledge. Clara didn't know how else to explain it. As night fell, Clara and Eli sat in the living room while Leo slept on the couch, wrapped in blankets. "We should at least listen to the radio," Clara said. "See if anyone's reported a missing kid." Eli nodded. The local news came in scratchy at best, but they picked up a regional station out of Ashridge. "Amber alert remains in effect for Leo Everhart, age 6, the voice crackled. "Last seen near the private Everhart airstrip 3 days ago. Authorities are urging anyone with information." Clara gasped. Eli turned up the volume. "Leo is the son of prominent businesswoman Marianne Everhart. The Everhart family has offered a substantial reward for any leads in his disappearance." Eli stood abruptly and turned the radio off. "It can't be," Clara whispered. Eli stared at the sleeping boy. "It is." The name Everhart didn't mean much to Eli, not personally, but he knew it meant power. He'd seen enough news stories about Marianne Everhart to understand she wasn't just wealthy, she was untouchable. A tech magnate, political donor, philanthropist, the kind of woman whose life was conducted behind iron gates and publicists' statements. And now her son was asleep on his couch. Clara, on the other hand, was shaken. She pulled out her old laptop and started searching for more details. "Eli, this is bad," she said, voice tight. "They think he was kidnapped. Look, here's the Amber Alert. He disappeared from the tarmac before boarding a private jet to New York. His nanny was found unconscious in a parked car." "Unconscious?" Eli frowned. "Drugged. They're investigating it as an abduction." Eli sat down heavily. "But he said nothing about being taken. He wasn't scared of me. He didn't act like he was escaping anyone." "No, but he's terrified," Clara said. "Look at how he clings to that necklace. That's not just a child who wandered off." They both fell silent. Then Leo stirred on the couch, murmuring in his sleep. Clara stood and gently laid a hand on his forehead. "Poor boy." Eli rose and paced. "What if we call the sheriff?" Clara said, "but leave out our names? Just say where to look?" Eli didn't answer. He was staring out the window, jaw clenched. "Eli?" He turned. "Number not yet. Something's not right. I want to hear from him first." The sun rose gray and sluggish the next morning. A drizzle patterned against the tin roof, soft and rhythmic, as if nature itself were holding its breath. Leo was already awake, sitting at the kitchen table, staring into a steaming mug of cocoa Clara had set in front of him. He hadn't touched it, but he was watching the steam curl upward, hypnotized by its movement. Eli sat across from him, trying to read the boy's face. There was a bruised sort of intelligence behind those eyes, quiet, alert, calculating, not the usual blank fear of a child lost and alone. This boy had chosen silence. That much was clear. "Leo," Eli said gently, "I know you're scared. I know you've been through something real hard, but we want to help you. We just need to understand." Leo didn't respond. His fingers twitched around the pendant. Eli leaned forward. "Did someone hurt you?" No answer, but something flickered in Leo's eyes. "You can nod," Eli added. "You don't have to talk." A long pause, then a slow, barely perceptible nod. Clara, watching from the sink, inhaled sharply. Eli kept his voice low. "Was it someone you knew?" Leo hesitated, then another nod. Eli sat back. That changed everything. They let him be for a while after that, hoping the safety of the house would help loosen his guard. Clara made cookies. Eli went to tend the animals, but even the simple routine of the barn chores felt different. He couldn't stop thinking about that nod. Someone had hurt the boy, someone close to him. Inside, Clara sat with Leo on the couch. She didn't ask him anything this time, just read aloud from an old storybook, the kind she used to read to Eli when they were kids. The Secret Garden, a tale of loneliness and hidden beauty. She thought maybe it would speak to him. Halfway through a chapter, Leo interrupted with a whisper. "Mommy didn't see me." Clara froze. She lowered the book and looked at him gently. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" Leo didn't answer, just stared ahead. Clara leaned in. "Are you talking about your real mommy or your other one?" Leo looked at her then. His lip trembled. "She didn't come look for me." "Oh, honey." "She knew," he said. The words came out strangled, like he hadn't used his voice in days. "She knew what?" He swallowed hard. "She knew they hurt me." Clara reached for his hand, heart breaking. "Who hurt you, Leo?" Leo curled in on himself, pulling the blanket up to his chin. "They said if I told, she'd send me away again." The words hung in the air, charged with unspeakable weight. Again. That night, Clara wrote everything down. Every word Leo had said, every clue, every tremor in his voice. She wrote until her hand ached, documenting in her careful script as if preserving fragile evidence. Eli read the notes twice. "They said she'd send him away again," he repeated, pacing. "That means this isn't the first time he's been moved." Clara nodded. "Or threatened." Eli stopped by the window. The rain had stopped. The woods glistened, silent and watchful. "I'm starting to think this wasn't a kidnapping at all," he said. "What if Leo ran?" "Ran from where?" Clara asked. "From her? From a private airfield?" Eli turned. "What if someone helped him, got him out, dumped the nanny in the car and set it all up to look like a snatch?" "But why?" "To make it look like someone else took him," Eli said. "So Marianne Everhart's hands stay clean." Clara shook her head. "That's insane. The woman is one of the richest people in the world." "Exactly. People like that don't live in the same world we do. They can bury things." Clara hesitated, then opened her laptop again. She pulled up a picture of Marianne Everhart at a press conference. Perfect hair, tailored suit, flanked by bodyguards. Leo saw the photo from across the room. He flinched. Clara turned the screen gently so he wouldn't have to look. "Do you know her, Leo?" she asked quietly. Leo nodded. "Is she your mother?" Leo shook his head. Clara blinked. "She's not?" Leo pressed his face into the blanket. Eli and Clara exchanged a stunned glance. "She adopted him," Eli whispered. "Or took him," Clara whispered back. That night, as the house fell quiet, Clara lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling. Questions ran through her mind like wildfire. Who was Leo, really? How did he get to their woods? And if Marianne wasn't his mother, why did she claim to be? Downstairs, Eli sat in the living room, rifle leaning against the wall, eyes on the door. Whatever storm was coming, he was going to be ready for it. The next morning, the news came alive with urgency. Leo's face, cleaned up, edited and beaming in a stock photo, appeared on every channel. Behind him, a voiceover. The heir to the Everhart fortune is still missing. A nationwide manhunt continues today for Leo Everhart, whose disappearance is now being considered a potential act of corporate sabotage, as authorities believe he may have been taken to pressure his mother, tech tycoon Marianne Everhart. Clara turned the TV off, her hand trembling slightly. They're turning this into a conspiracy circus. Eli sat at the kitchen table, chewing a piece of jerky without tasting it. You hear what they didn't say? She looked over. They didn't say he was in danger, not once. Didn't talk about trauma or what he might be going through, just how much he's worth. Clara exhaled. We can't keep him hidden forever, Eli. I'm not hiding him. I'm keeping him safe. But they're painting a target on his back. Whoever helped him get out might come looking to finish the job. Or worse, someone from her camp might come to drag him back. Eli's jaw tightened. Let them try. Outside, Leo stood in the garden, small fingers brushing the tops of the flowers Clara had planted the summer before. He looked out of place there, like something delicate dropped into rough country soil, but he seemed calm. He hadn't spoken much since the revelation about Marianne, but he'd taken to following Eli around, mimicking his motions as he shoveled hay or fed the chickens. He was trying to belong. Eli watched him from the porch. He didn't say it out loud, but he could feel it, the bond forming. There was something about Leo's presence that woke a part of Eli he thought had died long ago. He'd never had kids. Clara never married. But this child, silent, damaged, brave, was beginning to feel like his. Back inside, Clara paced. We need more information. If he's not Marianne's biological child, there has to be paperwork, adoption, foster care, something. What if it's sealed? What if it's fake? I've got a guy, Eli muttered. Clara raised a brow. A guy? Charlie runs the feed store, used to work for the county. He knows how to pull records. I'm both comforted and horrified. Eli gave her a tight smile. I'll head into town tonight, quiet-like. What if someone follows you? They'd need to be real quiet and real lucky. Clara didn't respond. The truth hung unspoken in the air. Eli would kill for that boy if it came to it, and neither of them would ever speak it out loud. The town of Ashridge was a quiet sprawl of faded brick, shuttered storefronts, and the occasional glow of neon from diners that hadn't changed menus since the 60s. By nightfall, it was nearly deserted. Eli parked his truck behind Charlie's shop. The feed store was officially closed, but Charlie had left the side door unlocked, just as agreed. Charlie was a wiry man in his 60s with a face like cracked leather and eyes sharp as barbed wire. He wore overalls and a ball cap that hadn't been washed since Clinton's first term. You brought whiskey? He asked without looking up from his laptop. Figured it was polite. Then let's get to work. Charlie didn't ask why Eli wanted to find sealed adoption records tied to the Everhart name. He didn't even blink when Eli wrote down the initials L.E. and the assumed age. Adoption files from Everhart's side won't be public, Charlie grunted, but if the kid came through the state system first, even for a second, we might catch a trace. If they changed his name, though. I'm betting they didn't, Eli said. The necklace, initials match Leo. Sloppy rich folks, Charlie said, shaking his head, think money erases paper trails. It took 2 hours of digging. Charlie worked in near silence, breaking only to sip his glass and mutter curse words at government databases. Then he found it. Holy hell! Eli leaned over. What? Birth certificate. L.E. was born as Leon Riverstone, mother Hannah Rivers. No father listed. Kid was placed into foster care after Hannah was institutionalized for postpartum psychosis. 2 months later, he was transferred. Then records vanished. Just private placement authorized by judicial order. That's code for someone who paid off the judge. Eli's stomach turned. Want to know the worst part? Charlie asked. Eli nodded. The orphanage he was sent to, shut down 5 years ago. State cited multiple violations, neglect, trafficking allegations, money laundering. Quiet case. Nobody went to jail. Eli ran a hand down his face. So she bought him. Charlie nodded grimly. Or bought the people who took him. Either way, Everhart's not his mom. Not legally, maybe not even on paper. Eli stood up slowly. Thanks, Charlie. Are you going to bring this to the law? Not yet. First, I'm going to find Hannah Rivers. It took 3 days to find her. Eli called in every favor he had, pulled strings with old friends from his days working part-time for the county's storm repair crew, and asked Charlie to run searches through older property records, rehab centers, and state health facilities. The name Hannah Rivers wasn't rare, but Hannah Rivers, admitted 6 years ago to Southbridge Psychiatric, was the one that stuck. The records were murky. Discharged against medical advice, no forwarding address, and no follow-up treatment plan. On paper, she disappeared. But Charlie found a clue, a social worker's last note. Client mentioned desire to relocate to Knox Hollow, to live with aunt. Advised against isolation. Knox Hollow was a ghost town, barely 50 residents, 1 general store, 1 bar, and no stoplight. Eli drove there on a Thursday, the sun low and hard in the sky, painting everything in gold and shadow. Leo stayed behind with Clara, reluctant to let Eli leave, but Eli promised to be back before dark. He found her in a broken-down trailer at the end of a washed-out gravel road, just past a rusting private property sign half-eaten by weeds. She was hanging laundry when he pulled up, wearing a threadbare cardigan and old jeans. Thin, pale, eyes like Leo's, but duller, tired. Eli got out and approached slowly. Hannah Rivers. She didn't answer immediately, just stared at him. The clothespin in her hand paused mid-air. My name's Eli Moran, he said gently. I think I found your son. The clothespin fell from her hand. She didn't faint, didn't cry, just stared at him like he'd spoken in a language she hadn't heard in years. He's alive? She finally whispered. Yes, Eli said, and he's safe. With me. She sat down on a crate by the trailer steps, her knees shaking. I thought I was crazy, she murmured. For years, I thought maybe I imagined him, or that he was dead. They told me he was placed with a good family, but they wouldn't tell me who. And when I got out, no one knew anything. I filed papers, complaints. Nothing ever came back. I believe you, Eli said. She looked up. How do I know you're not lying? I brought this, he said, reaching into his pocket. He handed her a photo Clara had taken the night before. Leo asleep on the couch, holding the pendant. The moment she saw it, her breath hitched. She pressed the photo to her chest like it was a lifeline. I gave him that necklace, she whispered. It was the only thing I had from my mother. They said it was lost during the transfer. It wasn't, Eli said. He still wears it. She looked up at him, eyes brimming with something deeper than tears. Can I see him? Eli nodded. If you're ready. Her voice cracked. I've been ready for 6 years. The reunion didn't happen like the movies. There was no dramatic hug, no soaring music, no emotional collapse. Leo stared at Hannah when she stepped into the living room, his little hands twisting nervously in his lap. He didn't move, didn't run to her. He just said, "You smell like cookies." Hannah blinked, confused, then started to laugh. Soft at first, then stronger. Rich with disbelief and awe. "I used to bake you sugar cookies," she said, "every Sunday afternoon." Leo stood slowly and walked over. He reached up and touched her face, as if trying to match the memory to the woman before him. "Do you remember me?" she asked. Leo nodded. "I used to sing to you," she said softly. "Even in the hospital. They said you wouldn't remember, but I sang anyway." Leo leaned in and rested his head against her stomach. She burst into tears. Clara had to leave the room, unable to contain her own sobbing. Eli stayed back, arms crossed, silent, watching, guarding. Later, as the boy napped and Hannah sipped hot tea with trembling hands, she told them everything. She had never given Leo up. She was hospitalized after a breakdown, the postpartum spiral triggered by exhaustion and isolation. They called her unfit. The state took Leo before she even understood what was happening. "No one gave me a chance," she whispered. "By the time I got out and tried to fight, he was gone. Records sealed. No lawyer would touch the case. I didn't have money, just my word, and they said it wasn't enough." Eli's fists clenched. Hannah looked at him. "How did you find him?" He told her about the woods, the cold morning, the necklace. She stared into her mug. "Then he must have escaped." Eli nodded. "I think someone helped him get away. But it's not over. Marianne Everhart still thinks she owns him, and she won't stop looking." Hannah's expression hardened. "Then we need to make this public, now." The decision to go public was a dangerous one. Clara knew it, Eli knew it, and Hannah knew it most of all, but they also knew silence was no longer an option. Eli reached out to an old friend, a journalist named Sam Becker, who ran a digital news platform out of Ashridge. He wasn't a mainstream name, but he had a reputation for integrity and a nose for stories that mattered. When Sam arrived at the farm the next morning, he brought a camera, a voice recorder, and 3 notepads. He interviewed Hannah first, then Eli, then Clara. He never once interrupted or questioned the pain in their stories. He just took it all in, every word, every breath. When it came time to speak to Leo, Sam didn't push. He asked Eli to be present, sat on the floor beside Leo with the recorder off, and just talked to him like a person. After 10 minutes, Leo finally whispered, "She said I was hers, but I didn't feel like hers." Sam nodded solemnly. "Then you tell me who you belong to." Leo looked over at Hannah, then at Eli. "I belong here," he said. That was the quote Sam led with when the story broke 3 days later. I belong here. The untold truth about Leo Everhart. The world wasn't ready, but it was listening. The article exploded like wildfire. Within hours of its publication, the Everhart PR team issued a tight, calculated statement denying all allegations. Marianne Everhart adopted her son legally through a private agency. Any claims suggesting misconduct are categorically false. But it was too late. Sam's story had struck a nerve, especially the part where Hannah's handwritten court documents were photographed and published, the same ones she had sent to the family court multiple times unanswered over the past 6 years. The internet had a new obsession, the silent war between America's wealthiest woman and a forgotten mother who had never stopped searching for her son. News vans camped on the edge of the property line. Drones buzzed overhead. The farm, once a quiet sanctuary, became a fortress under siege. Eli nailed wood boards over the back windows and installed a camera over the driveway gate. He didn't sleep much. Every creak of the floorboards felt like a warning. Clara tried to keep the routine normal. She played Scrabble with Leo, baked his favorite peanut butter cookies, even sang songs to calm him, but the strain showed in her eyes. Hannah, for her part, stood firm. "They tried to erase me," she said one night, standing on the porch beside Eli. "But you don't erase a mother." Eli nodded. "They'll come. Personally, maybe. Let them." That night, a black SUV pulled up across the gravel road. It didn't enter the property, didn't flash lights or honk. It just sat there, engine idling. Eli stepped outside with the rifle slung low across his chest and watched. After 10 minutes, it drove off. No words, just a message. They knew. The next morning, a letter arrived. No stamp, no postmark, just a manila envelope tucked beneath the porch mat. Inside was a typed note, "Return the boy quietly. No police, no lawyers. You'll be compensated appropriately. No one has to get hurt." Beneath the message was a single black and white photo of the farm from overhead. Drone footage. Recent. Eli stared at it for a long time. Then he burned the letter in the kitchen sink. Clara saw the edges curl into flame and said nothing. They didn't tell Leo or Hannah, not yet. There was no point in terrifying them further. Instead, Eli called Sam. "They're escalating," he said. Sam, on the other end of the line, sounded grim. "I figured they would. The stories gained international traction. People are calling Marianne a trafficker. Investors are pulling inquiries. Her foundation website was hacked last night. Where's Leo? Trended for 4 hours straight." "Good," Eli said. "You sure about this? It'll get worse before it gets better." Eli looked out the window, watching Leo chase a butterfly around the yard. Carefree for once. "We're not backing down." Sam exhaled. "Then I've got one more card to play." "What's that?" "We go live. Interview, unedited. You, Hannah, Leo, if he wants. Let the world see the truth." Eli hesitated, then nodded. "Set it up." The day of the live interview was overcast, the sky heavy with clouds that refused to break. Sam arrived with a lean camera crew, 2 people, both discreet, both quiet. They set up under the old oak tree near the pasture. Clara combed Leo's hair while Hannah helped him into a clean shirt. He looked smaller somehow, Eli thought. Fragile but determined. The camera rolled. Sam started with Eli. He talked about the morning in the woods, the silence, the fear, then the connection. How he knew almost immediately that Leo wasn't just lost. He was escaping. Then came Hannah. She didn't cry. Her voice didn't shake. She spoke with the clarity of someone who had nothing left to lose. "I was robbed of my son," she said, "by a system that listens to money more than mothers." And then, after a pause, Leo spoke. He walked onto camera unprompted, stood between Eli and Hannah, and said quietly, "I don't want to go back." Sam didn't press. He didn't need to. The weight of the truth sat heavy in the air. Within hours of the broadcast, the internet cracked wide open. Celebrities began posting. Politicians weighed in. Petitions circulated. Protesters camped outside Everhart's headquarters in Chicago with signs reading, "Bring Leo home." Marianne Everhart responded the next morning. She didn't hold a press conference. Instead, she posted a professionally shot video from her penthouse, seated on a velvet chair backlit by skyline. "My son Leo is deeply loved," she began. "He is the light of my life. I have never harmed him, nor allowed anyone else to. I am heartbroken by these false allegations and distressed that individuals have exploited a frightened child for their own gain." Her face, flawless and impassive, gave nothing away. "I will be pursuing full legal remedies against those currently harboring my son," she said, "and I will stop at nothing to bring him home." Eli shut off the screen. "She's not backing down." "No," Clara said, "she's doubling down." But what Marianne didn't expect was what happened next. One of her former employees, a man named Gideon Talls, a security contractor, leaked a series of emails to the press. In the emails, Marianne discussed removing the child from the media cycle and transferring liability to a surrogate guardian. The implication was clear. Leo wasn't her child. He was a pawn. The internet turned on her with fury, and someone else took notice. The district attorney of Cook County announced they were opening an official investigation into Leo Everhart's adoption process. 2 days after the investigation announcement, a court order arrived by courier. Eli opened it in the kitchen, hands trembling slightly. Clara read over his shoulder. "Temporary custody granted to Eli Moran and Hannah Rivers, pending investigation results." Leo's guardianship was now legally protected. For the first time since Leo appeared in the woods, Eli felt a breath of relief. The farm, still under constant media watch, began to settle. Protesters now lined the road in support. Strangers dropped off food, toys, even handwritten cards for Leo. It was overwhelming, but it was also proof. Proof that sometimes the world did care. That night, as they all sat on the porch, stars blinking into view above the pines, Leo curled up beside Eli. "You're not mad I came here?" he asked. Eli looked down, his voice rough. "No, son, I'm glad you did." Leo nodded, eyes drifting closed. And in the hush of twilight, with the woods dark and gentle around them, a truth settled into Eli's bones, simple, profound, and undeniable. Leo wasn't just a boy who had stumbled into his life. He was part of it now, forever. It wasn't long before the cameras returned, not media this time, but state investigators. 2 sharply dressed officials arrived in a black sedan, their posture stiff with protocol. Eli met them at the gate. "We're here to speak with Ms. Rivers and the minor, Leo," the younger one said, flipping open a leather ID case. "Standard inquiry." Eli didn't move. He's had enough interviews. "This isn't optional." Eli studied them. These weren't the same smiling faces as the press. They were colder, strategic. This wasn't about empathy, this was procedure. Still, he stepped aside. They're inside, but I'll be present the entire time. They asked questions for over an hour. Where had Leo been sleeping? Who had he spoken to? Was there any physical evidence that Marianne Everhart had abused or neglected him? Leo, already worn down by cameras and questions, froze when they asked about his previous home. He stared at the floor and whispered, "It was like a museum." But no one ever looked at me. Clara brought in cookies midway through, breaking the tension. But Hannah never left her son's side. When they left, the lead investigator turned to Eli. "We're not saying we don't believe you, but be prepared. This won't be quick or easy." "We've already survived the hard part," Eli replied. Outside, more letters began arriving, some supportive, some threatening. Someone left a dead squirrel nailed to the farm's sign with a note that read, "This ends one way." Eli burned that one too. Charlie called just after dusk. "They're digging," he said. "Not just Everhart's lawyers, journalists, private investigators. They're trying to find anything on you, Hannah, Clara, hell, even me." Eli sat on the porch with the phone tucked between his shoulder and ear, eyes scanning the edge of the property line. "What do they think they'll find?" Charlie snorted. "Doesn't matter. They'll twist it however they want. Everhart doesn't care about truth. She cares about narrative." "I know." "There's more," Charlie added. "Somebody tried to pay a judge off to issue an emergency order to remove Leo and place him with child services. Judge recused himself, but that means they're desperate." Eli's grip tightened on the porch rail. "They're losing control," Charlie said, "and cornered animals bite." Inside, Clara and Hannah were putting Leo to bed. He'd become fascinated with bedtime stories again, tales of knights and dragons, or brave kids on mysterious islands. He asked a lot of questions about heroes. What made them good? Did they always win? Hannah answered carefully. Sometimes heroes lose things. Sometimes they get hurt, but they keep trying. Leo nodded like he already understood. Later that night, Eli took the rifle down from the mantel and cleaned it, slowly and deliberately. Marianne Everhart made her next move public and devastating. Her legal team filed a lawsuit in federal court, accusing Eli and Hannah of kidnapping, emotional manipulation, and defamation. The suit demanded immediate custody of Leo and damages totaling $20 million. It was a message, loud and clear: back off, or be destroyed. Sam showed up at the farm again, this time without cameras, just a notebook and a grim expression. "She's weaponizing the courts now," he said. "This isn't about Leo anymore, it's about power. She's making an example out of you." "Then she picked the wrong man," Eli said. Clara, ever the voice of reason, wasn't so sure. "We don't have legal muscle. She's got firms on retainer that charge more per hour than this whole farm is worth." "Then we find someone who fights for the right reasons," Eli said. Sam nodded. "I might know a firm, pro bono work, civil rights angle. They'd love to take down a billionaire." That night, Hannah wept for the first time since she'd arrived, not because she was afraid, but because she was tired. Tired of fighting, tired of being erased, tired of always clawing her way through a world that treated poor women like garbage. Eli sat beside her in the dark and didn't speak. He just stayed. The new lawyers were sharp and uncompromising. a trio of young attorneys from Chicago who drove out to the farm in jeans and boots, ready for battle. They set up shop at the kitchen table, laptops out, documents spread wide. Their lead counsel, Marisa Kwan, asked direct questions. How attached is Leo to Eli? Does he consider him a father figure? Hannah nodded. He trusts him more than anyone. Good, Marissa said. That bond matters in court. And what about you, Ms. Rivers? Any criminal record? Mental health documents? Hannah flinched but answered honestly. Marisa didn't blink. It won't matter. We'll control the narrative now. They spent hours preparing statements, gathering witness testimonies, analyzing timelines. Sam's articles were dissected line by line to ensure consistency. Clara even agreed to speak as a character witness, recounting Leo's behaviors and the night he first whispered his name. For the first time, it felt like they were on the offensive. Marisa looked at Eli before she left that night. You're not just a bystander in this. The judge is going to look at you like you're the boy's unofficial father. You ready to defend that role? Eli didn't hesitate. I already am. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. Until then, Leo remained under Eli and Hannah's guardianship, but tension thickened the air like a brewing storm. Marianne made no further statements, but she didn't need to. Her silence now carried more threat than any words could. One night, Clara heard footsteps outside. Eli rushed out with the rifle, but no one was there. Just fresh boot prints in the mud behind the barn. The next morning, a security system was installed. Despite the fear, life tried to return to normal. Hannah and Clara planted a fall garden. Leo helped stack firewood, proud to carry more each day. Eli fixed the roof on the chicken coop. One afternoon, Leo asked, "What happens if the judge says I have to leave?" Eli knelt down. "Then we keep fighting. You don't give up on the people you love." Leo thought for a moment. "You're like the knight from the story, the one who protects the village." Eli smiled. "I'm just a farmer." Leo shook his head. "You're my knight." The hearing loomed ahead like a dragon of its own, but they had swords now, and they were ready. The courthouse was an old stone building in Ashridge, more museum than justice center. Inside, the wood-paneled courtroom smelled of varnish and age. Reporters gathered outside like vultures, camera flashes already testing the windows. Protesters and supporters lined the steps, waving signs, some that read, "Justice for Leo," others that simply said, "Return the boy." Eli arrived in a crisp button-down, boots polished, jaw tight. Hannah wore a borrowed dress, simple but neat. Leo walked between them, holding both hands. He didn't cry, he didn't speak, but he held his chin up in a way that made Eli's chest ache. Inside, the legal teams squared off like boxers in a ring. Marianne didn't attend in person. Her lawyers said she was overwhelmed and focused on recovery, but her presence was felt in every sharply worded objection and polished line of argument. They claimed Leo was kidnapped, manipulated, paraded in front of the media for sympathy. They accused Hannah of being unstable, Eli of acting like a vigilante. They cited dangerous rural conditions as a reason for emergency removal. Marissa countered with calm precision. She walked the court through Leo's words, the documents, the photographs, the DNA test confirming Hannah's maternity. She showed the judge the emails leaked by Gideon Talls. And then she asked the one question that silenced the courtroom. If Marianne Everhart truly believed Leo was her son, why was there no legal adoption certificate on file? The judge didn't rule that day. He said he'd take time to consider. Outside, the noise of the crowd pressed in like a wave. Inside the car, Leo finally broke the silence. "Do I have to go with her?" Eli turned around in his seat. "Not if we can help it." Leo nodded, quiet again. But he didn't let go of Eli's hand the whole ride home. Back at the farm, the air felt heavier. Every rustle in the woods set the dogs barking. The mailbox was smashed one morning. Someone threw eggs at the barn wall during the night. Clara tried to keep the mood up. She baked Leo's favorite treats, filled the house with music from an old record player, read aloud from children's books with silly voices. Hannah helped reinforce the windows and even installed motion-activated lights, her exhaustion now blended with determination. Leo kept close to Eli, following him everywhere. When Eli chopped wood, Leo carried a kindling. When he fed the animals, Leo tagged along. They didn't speak much, but it was a comfort they both understood. Being near someone who'd fight for you. Then one morning, a car pulled up. It wasn't a media van. It was Gideon Tall's. He stepped out slowly, hands raised in peace. "I came to talk," he said, voice gravelly. Eli met him halfway down the driveway, tense. "I don't work for her anymore," Gideon said. "I quit the day I leaked the emails. I figured you'd want to know what you're really up against." Eli studied him. "Talk fast." Gideon looked around warily. Everhart's planning to move Leo offshore. She's got connections in Dubai and Singapore. She loses this case, she'll disappear with him. "She's not getting him," Eli said flatly. Gideon nodded. "Then be ready. She plays dirty, and she doesn't lose." The next phase came quietly. A second private investigator was caught snooping around the edge of the property line, camera in hand. Eli escorted him off at gunpoint. Then the county received an anonymous tip, an accusation of unsafe living conditions on the Moran farm. Inspectors arrived 2 days later. Clara met them with fresh lemonade and her sharpest glare. They checked everything: fridge temperature, fire extinguisher tags, even the state of the chicken coop. They found nothing. "Sorry, folks," the lead inspector muttered. "Looks like a waste of time." Eli watched them leave with a sour expression. "They'll be back." That night, Leo had a nightmare. He woke screaming, eyes wide, clutching at the air. Eli rushed in, heart pounding. "It's okay," he said, kneeling beside the bed. "You're safe." Leo shook his head. "I dreamed I was back in the big house, and nobody knew I was gone." Eli wrapped his arms around him. "You're not there anymore," he whispered. "You're home." Leo clung to him, trembling. That same night, Clara found a tracking device taped beneath her car. It was small, military grade. They weren't just being watched, they were being hunted. The next morning, the farm's internet went out. Charlie came by to check it, but the router was fine. The lines were intact. Still, no signal. "Could be a jammer," Charlie muttered. "Something short range, cheap but effective, designed to disrupt without being traced." Hannah stood nearby, arms crossed. "Why now?" "Because they know the judge is getting close to a decision," Eli said. "And if they can isolate us, they can control the story." Charlie grunted. "I'll rig you a satellite uplink, old army tech. not fast but untraceable. They spent the day reinforcing the property again. New locks, more lights, tripwire alarms on the tree line. Leo stayed inside, drawing with crayons at the kitchen table. He was working on a picture of the farm, big sun, green fields, a house with 4 stick figures out front. One of them had a hat like Eli's. Later, Eli looked at the drawing and smiled. "You drew me taller than I am." Leo shrugged. "You feel tall." That night, Sam sent a runner with a message. The judge was expected to issue a ruling within 3 days. 3 days. One way or another, this chapter was ending. The ruling came on a Monday morning. Eli and Hannah stood side by side in front of the judge, hands clasped tight. Leo sat between them, fidgeting, his small legs dangling above the floor. The courtroom was packed. Journalists filled the back row. 2 sketch artists scribbled furiously. Security lined the doors. Judge Owens, a gray-haired man with a grave expression, adjusted his glasses and read the summary aloud. After reviewing all evidence, including birth records, testimony, verified abuse claims, and illegal custodial actions, I am granting full and permanent custody of the child known as Leo Everhart, born Leon Riverstone, to his biological mother, Hannah Rivers, and guardian Eli Moran, effective immediately. The courtroom erupted. Reporters surged toward the aisle. Marisa shielded the family with her body while court officers held back the crowd. Leo turned to Eli. "Did we win?" Eli knelt down, tears in his eyes. "Yeah, kid," he said, "we won." But deep down, he knew it wasn't over. Not really, because people like Marianne Everhart didn't lose quietly. They vanished, they regrouped, they retaliated, and somewhere she was watching, waiting. But for now, at least, for the first time in his life, Leo was truly, legally, undeniably home. Life didn't go back to normal, not really. After the court ruling, the farm became a sanctuary in name only. While Marianne Everhart's legal team went quiet, her influence still lingered like a shadow at the edge of every day. They noticed it in little things. Calls that dropped with static, emails that never delivered, packages opened and resealed before they reached the house. Still, for Leo, life began to bloom. He started laughing again. The sound was awkward at first, like a door unused to being opened, but it came easier with time. During story time with Clara, chasing ducks through the garden, riding on Eli's shoulders as they mended the barn roof. School officials from the county called to arrange a placement, but Eli and Hannah declined. Instead, Clara began homeschooling him with the help of a retired teacher in town. It wasn't ideal, but it was safe. Eli noticed something else, too. Leo was asking more questions about his real father, about the time before the house, as he called it, about why people wanted to take him away. Eli answered what he could, gently, honestly, but some questions were too heavy for a 6-year-old. Some answers he feared Leo would have to grow into. Marianne Everhart vanished from the public eye after the ruling. Her companies issued pre-written statements about refocusing corporate priorities. Her social media accounts went dark. Her home in Chicago, once a symbol of opulence, was now hidden behind closed gates and private security that doubled overnight. But silence wasn't surrender. 2 weeks after the custody ruling, Sam called Eli. "She's liquidating assets," he said. "Shell companies, properties in the Caymans and Luxembourg. She's prepping for a move. Run or retaliate." Sam hesitated. Both, maybe. My contact at Homeland Security flagged a flight manifest last week. Everhart's private jet filed for a destination in Dubai. She hasn't boarded yet, but it's active. What happens if she leaves? She's untouchable, Sam replied. Dubai doesn't extradite. If she runs, we can't bring her back. Eli looked out across the fields. Leo and Clara were feeding the goats, Hannah sipping coffee on the porch. Let her go, he said. What? She leaves, we get peace. Let her run. Sam was silent for a moment, then, all right. That night, Eli told Hannah what he'd learned. She sat quietly for a moment, then nodded. I don't want revenge, she said. I want freedom. And for the first time, they believed it might actually be possible. They woke to fire. It started in the west pasture, dry hay, set alight in a neat arc. Clara saw the glow first, screaming for Eli as smoke billowed past the window. Eli and Hannah ran into the yard, hose already snaking from the side of the house. Leo, barefoot and sobbing, clung to Clara's nightgown. Get him inside, Eli roared. They fought the blaze for 30 minutes before the volunteer fire department arrived. Thankfully, it hadn't reached the barn. The livestock were safe, the main house untouched. But Eli knew it was a message. Later, they found the remains of a flare casing buried near the ash. Military grade. Marissa filed an emergency motion with the sheriff's department for a security detail. It was granted. For the next week, a cruiser sat parked outside their gate, but it didn't feel like enough. Not anymore. That night, as they patched up the fence, Hannah said quietly, She's not going to run. Eli wiped sweat from his brow. She's going to destroy everything first. Hannah's eyes glistened in the moonlight. Then we need to make sure she doesn't get a second chance. Sam wasn't done digging. With help from whistleblowers and international contacts, he uncovered what no one else had dared to follow. The Everhart Trust, a shadow fund used to silence contractors, judges, and institutions involved in Leo's illegal placement. Documents, emails, offshore transfers, enough to open not just one case, but multiple. Federal. He brought the information to Eli personally, laying it all out on the kitchen table like a war map. This is it, Sam said. We turn this in, the FBI gets involved. She's not running from that, but there's a risk. What kind? Eli asked. She won't wait. She'll come for Leo before they come for her. Eli stood in silence for a long time. Then he said, Then we set the trap. Over the next 48 hours, they coordinated everything. Sam prepared the federal complaint. Marissa contacted federal authorities under seal. Charlie installed motion sensors in a 5-acre perimeter, and Clara packed a go-bag for Leo, just in case. They didn't sleep much, they didn't talk about the fear, but they felt it, tangible and thick, like a thunderstorm ready to split the world in half. It happened the way Eli always feared it might. Quietly. No helicopters, no black cars. Just a soft knock at the back door. Clara opened it before realizing what she was doing, and there stood Marianne Everhart herself. No security, no entourage. Just her and a long coat, her face pale but calm. I want to speak to Leo, she said. Eli stepped between them in seconds, voice a low growl. Not a chance. Marianne held up a small case. DNA test from before the adoption. It's real. He's not your son. He's not hers, either. Clara gasped. Marianne's voice was calm, almost pitying. He's not who you think he is. He was part of a program, one you can't even begin to understand. Eli didn't move. Back away from this house. But Leo had heard. He stood at the edge of the hallway, his tiny voice echoing through the silence. I don't care who you say I am. Marianne looked at him, the smallest crack forming in her expression. You don't understand, she said. Leo stepped forward. I don't need to, he said. I have a mom and a family, and I don't belong to you. She stood there, frozen. Then she turned, walked away, and disappeared into the woods. They never saw her again. Marianne Everhart disappeared, not just from the farm, but from the world. In the days that followed her final visit, her accounts were frozen, her passports flagged, and her assets seized by federal order. The FBI opened an official investigation into the Everhart Trust. Sam's reporting, combined with Marissa's sealed deposition and Gideon's witness statement, was more than enough to move forward. The press went wild. It was the fall of a titan. Headlines screamed phrases like billionaire fugitive and the Everhart empire collapses. But for Eli, Clara, Hannah, and Leo, the storm's end didn't bring thunder or fire. It brought quiet, strange, aching quiet, the kind of stillness that comes after something sacred has been protected, something fought for. Leo slept easier. The circles beneath his eyes faded. He giggled more, played longer, even asked if he could plant his own garden. So the bees have somewhere to visit. Clara resumed her book club, baking fresh loaves of rosemary bread and letting the neighbors back into the house for the first time in months. Hannah went to therapy for the first time in years. She spoke of the trauma, the silence, the years she spent trying to convince people she mattered. Now, finally, someone listened. And Eli, he stood outside every morning, coffee in hand, and just breathed. No sounds of helicopters, no strange cars. Just the soft moon of cows, the rustle of wind through the trees, and the laughter of a boy learning what home really meant. The days turned warmer. Spring whispered across the fields, coaxing flowers from tired soil and birds from empty trees. Leo helped plant the new garden, rows of carrots, beans, tomatoes, and sunflowers that towered over his small frame. Every plant is a secret, he told Eli one afternoon, wiping dirt across his cheeks. You have to wait to see who they are. Eli smiled. That's true about people, too. That night they gathered around the fire pit behind the barn. Clara roasted marshmallows. Hannah told stories from her childhood, real ones now, no longer edited for fear or shame. Leo curled up beside Eli, head against his shoulder. Will the woods forget me? He asked. Eli glanced at the dark silhouettes of trees swaying gently under the stars. No, he said. The woods don't forget. They remember everything, but they don't tell everyone. Good, Leo murmured. I don't want everyone to know. Eli ruffled his hair. They won't. Just us. The moon rose, casting silver light across the pasture. Somewhere an owl called out, lonely and calm. For the first time since that fateful morning, Eli allowed himself to close his eyes by the fire. The world was still, and they were safe. A year passed, the farm thrived. The media moved on. The headlines faded, replaced by the next scandal, the next sensation. Marianne Everhart was never found. Some said she fled the country. Others whispered darker rumors that someone somewhere had silenced her for good. But for Eli and his family, that chapter was closed. Leo was officially registered as Leon Riverstone again. His last name was his choice. Hannah gave him that. But when the adoption papers arrived, joint guardianship, with Eli's name listed as legal co-parent, Leo insisted they keep one thing the same. "I want to stay Leo," he said. "The woods found me like that." And so he remained. Leo Riverstone Moran, the boy who came from shadows and silence and found his name in the light. On the anniversary of his arrival, Eli planted a pine tree at the edge of the woods. A small plaque sat at its base. "For the boy who walked out of the dark and taught us how to stay." They didn't invite anyone, no cameras, no ceremony. Just the four of them. Leo placed the first scoop of soil. Clara read a poem she wrote about roots and courage. Hannah whispered a prayer for mothers who never stopped fighting. And Eli? He stood in silence, hand resting on Leo's shoulder, eyes on the tree. It was small now, but one day it would stand tall. And deep beneath the soil, where the roots reached far into the ground, the woods would remember that here, once, was a boy who had been lost and then found home.